you have to have a point of view. I mean, you can't make the film without a point of view. But I guess the films that I'm trying to do and the ones that I like, hopefully they're filled with contradictions and ambiguities, and there isn't a single truth.
Yes.
And I think that is what I'm always...
Black, yeah, I love it. Black and white turns to gray, and I've done my job. Exactly. As soon as I turn your stereotypes up on their heads, I'm all set.
But your characters are true. You end up hating them a little bit.
Yeah.
He makes you...
Or you start out hating them.
Worship his characters, you know. Yeah. Although the cool part about what you do is you bring out, like, somebody here, Scott, you know, wanted to kind of check out some of your pieces. You know, a lot of young people aren't really, we need to talk about that, you know, your audience. But I said, make sure you check out, you know, FDR, because FDR is just, besides being my hero, he's just incredible. So he was like talking about that whole Lucy Mercer thing and whatnot. And it's like, you know, you're not just showing FDR as the great man that he is. You're also showing him, I actually look at your pieces and I think you show extraordinary men as ordinary men.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I really am trying to show, as I was saying, you know, the contradictions in these people, you know, that you may, I mean, look at LBJ, you know, he did these amazingly great things that people forget about. Remember the war in Vietnam. I'm trying to, you know, I had one editing room, we were working on the war, and the other we're working on the war on poverty, you know. It's like I was schizophrenic. But you put them both together.
And that's the truth.
Exactly.
Let's talk about you a little bit, Sean. You're getting a little left out here, and I thought you were going to be running the show.
No. I don't do that.
So I think when I look at your work that you take an ordinary person.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. It's kind of like the extraordinary everyman.
Yes.
Kind of.
One thing that I like that you do, which is sort of filmmaking 101, I'm always talking about it, is, you know, some people show an ordinary day in somebody's life. I always go back to that thing that somebody once told me, films are about an extraordinary time in someone's life. And you do that. You show that.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, that's what makes that. That's why when I started watching,
I'm going to overthink it. You know.
Yeah.
This guy has 3 million records. Let's talk about how he has 3 million records and how that's affected his life.
No, but you talk about more than that.
Yeah, and imply a little bit more than that even. But
you get into how society has kind of changed and how you can't really project what your future's going to be and what you think life's going to be is not what it is. I mean, you go into...
His relationship with his wife, she was crying. Turn on the camera, she's crying. Yeah.
Why?
I think about being with a person that collects records.
Loved his records maybe more than her.
Oh my God.
I disagree. I think she's very upset because he can't... This man has done an extraordinary thing and he's not being recognized for it.
Yeah. She's upset about that, and there's a lot going on there.
But not what Andy said. That sounds interesting. That sounds like an interesting movie.
Yeah.
What I said.
Yeah.
He loves his records more than he loves her.
Yeah, in other words, if you're there...
There's a little bit of that going on, trust me.
But in other words, you're making the movie, you're sort of trying to keep your eyes open, and maybe that's something that you felt was happening, and maybe something Andy would see and you would miss, you know, because she's, you know...
I'm a girl.
No, I could tell, that was definitely happening.
There's something to that.
But that's about the truth. I mean, it's not like it isn't true. He may have left that out.
Well, she had a very lonely aura about her. And I think it comes off. I don't think I needed to say that.
You need to see this thing.
I will. But a great film has, a really great film like Tolstoy. It's all in there. In other words, all the different pieces of the thing. And what we do, we're trying to get as much in as we can. But to make sense out of it, you end up throwing things out.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the truth is disappearing. Everything. If that were true about her and it wasn't there, it would make the film diminish, but it wouldn't make the film less true.
I got that out of it. I brought that to it. I think that it's 2009. You need to leave room for the audience to interact with the film. You don't spoon feed them. Like you were saying, you wish I'd gone more into how social media is affecting our lives at the end. I would much rather you fill in the gaps with your own experience. And what you've done, Sean, is take a microcosm of story about one person and make it stand for society moving on past vinyl, the death of a certain thing. And You know, and that's what I try to do. I try to just, and that's what you try to do. We take an individual story, and then it stands for so much more.
Say a lot by saying a little.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your audience a little bit. Here you go. You made your project. You throw it up on the internet at no cost to you or anybody, and you have 500,000 people watching it, and at least 350 comments in there. I don't.
Oh yeah, there's thousands of comments, and even more than that. If you look on Vimeo, there's like a little area that says "See Refers," and it says like how many people have looked at it from this site and this site. If you add it up, it's like there's like 10 million people have seen that. I can't believe it.
Let me tell you, the problem with the internet is that I didn't know about this. In other words, we need...
Why don't you know about it?
Because you need a curator. You need, it's like a museum. You need somebody who says, here are the 10 things you want to watch. I mean, see, eventually I think this is this wild and woolly time, when everything's out there. I mean, what tends to happen is that it begins to kind of, you know, like, I don't know, 50 years from now, it's suddenly all kind of codified, and, we have channels, and you don't, you know, it's hard to see it all, and you want to keep it open.
We're gonna have barcodes right here.
No,
I mean, that's the danger of the curating thing. You want to be careful, because you want to keep it open like this.
Here, you asked earlier what Facebook is.
Yeah.
Well,
Really?
well, kind of.
It wasn't on camera.
I'm not on Facebook.
He kind of.
I said, why do you use it? Why do you want to be on it? That's what I said.
Okay, here's why you want to be on.
Because you want to monitor your kids, in your case.
Wait, my kids are older.
But here, how about this idea? Andy, how many times would you send somebody a link saying, oh, you got to see this thing? You had asked why you should be on there. That's because when you start developing a lot of your film friends and all this kind of stuff, and you get some, I don't want to say younger folks, but I like the younger folks in my group too. They're always sticking stuff on your wall, and they're saying, check out this film, check out this film, check out this film.
It makes you feel less lonely.
Yeah. No, they send me all this great content that I want to see, you know, so.
Without the internet, our film wouldn't be out. Would not be possible.
So you're telling me your Facebook, Twitter, and all that is helping you promote your film?
I'm telling you that the reason I'm on Twitter was that the day I started Twitter was the day I went to Sundance. And my publicist said, you've got to get on Twitter. And I said, me? Right. I made this film. Are you kidding me? And then I thought about it, and I thought, I'm not against the internet. And in fact, that's my only hope. Never fear, the internet's here, you know? And
I mean, what other option do you have? You're going to go start crowdsourcing?
We have Merritt Lear, our associate producer from Chicago. She writes all the blog posts every week. So we've got her writing blog posts that we literally have to write 3-4 blog posts a week. Then she compiles all of those links to the press we're doing, where we're releasing, all that stuff into a mass email that goes out to about 2,000 people that we hope send it on. All your audience has, every person who watches your stuff has a voice now, and they all can express themselves. And back when I started documentaries, which is, you know, not that long ago, I guess, but it was quite a while ago. It was 1992. And I thought I'd get this woman out of prison. And it went on PBS, and no one did anything. And I was like, oh my God, if I'm gonna get her out of prison, I need to like turn it into a movie of the week or something and get it to 2 million housewives who are gonna write letters. I was worried that on PBS, nobody would watch my films that were actually motivated to become activists for it. Now you may have a different feeling, but that's why I've never made anything for PBS ever since.
Yeah, I mean, remember, I make films for PBS, but I'm not PBS, so I don't know.
Have you had a great impact?
My career really has been there at PBS. Yeah. So the question that you're asking was, how's PBS changing? So does PBS have anything on the internet where you could be making films? Lots of people could be making films. No. Is that a good idea? I don't know, but it sounds interesting. In other words, they are trying to think about the internet, but it often is for educational, you know, on the educational side. Like I finish a film, and they use it to, you know, for teachers and
you got the kids,
whatever.
PBSkids.org.
It's that kind of thing. But, you know, are they using it to develop the medium and, you know, make more available, like, you know, putting, you know, as I say, you know, there's lots of new filmmakers that could be on PBS on the internet.
They have a blog, POV. Their blog is pretty good.
So yeah, so POV are thinking about it. I mean, I don't think about these things. I'm trying to make a film and try to get the funding and try to get it out there. Yeah. And I really lost. I don't know enough about all this stuff going on. This is exciting just to sit here. I'm learning.
Don't worry, you're right. You're not far behind. It's just it's the Wild West still.
I need a social. What did you call it?
a social networking gal.
Oh yeah, I need that.
Okay, but this is why
That's
we
her title.
picked this particular cast, because, I mean, you have kind of this sort of PBS audience that watches your work, but he is the future.